Now, I'd not seen her for some time, since she'd been living in Nottinghamshire, and it was there that this curious incident happened to her. She had, so she told me, managed to find a very attractive and well-maintained cottage to rent at a very reasonable price, and had moved in. The cottage stood back a few yards from the main A46 road, about 9 miles southwest of Newark. The road at this point was straight as a die for several miles, and indeed I think followed the old Roman road. On the cottage side of the road, there were verges and fences running along the borders of fields. On the other side of the road, however, there was a clump of trees almost directly opposite my friend's cottage, and coming down almost to the roadside. When my friend had been living in the cottage for about a month, late one Sunday night, she heard from the road outside the sound of squealing brakes, followed by a terrible crash. She raced outside and saw that a car had swerved from the road and crashed into the clump of trees. She immediately rang the emergency services and then ran to the car. By now a passing motorist had stopped, and when my friend reached the wrecked car, he pulled her away from it, saying that it was no good. The driver was dead. The police arrived first, closely followed by the ambulance and fire brigade. And while they went through the grisly task of cutting the body from the wreck, my friend, who was rather shocked, went with the 2 policemen and the passing motorist to her cottage, where she made them all the universal British restorative, a cup of tea. The police took her statement such as it was, and then, feeling less shaky, she went with them back to the scene of the crash. There seemed to be no reason for the car to have left the road. The weather was fine and clear. There was no obstruction to view all the way down the road. My friend decided that either the driver must have been drunk, or that an animal of some sort had run out in front of the car. But, as the fire brigade were clearing up, my friend heard one of them say to the policeman who had taken her statement, "Another one, eh, Tom?" My friend waited until the police were almost ready to go, and then asked them what the fireman had meant. After a moment's hesitation, the police officer told her that this stretch of road had a very bad reputation. Over the previous 3 years, there had been 7 fatal crashes, and there had been no logical reason for any of them. My friend thought about what the policeman had said on and off for the next 3 months, and then, just after midnight, one Friday night, my friend was sitting reading in her living room, when once again she heard the sickening scream of tortured rubber, followed by a terrifying crash. Almost without thought, she once more dialed 999, and then ran across the road. This time, the vehicle was a yellow sports car, which was almost demolished by the impact of the crash. The driver was a young man of about 25, and it was obvious from his injuries that he could not survive much longer. He was conscious, and in an effort to take his mind off the seriousness of his injuries, my friend asked him what had happened. He was weak, but he managed to tell her that everything was perfectly all right until he was almost level with my friend's cottage, when he had felt the car suddenly lurch towards a clump of trees. He struggled with the wheel and managed to wrestle it back into a straight line, but then a force stronger than himself dragged the wheel over once more towards the right, and as he saw the trees rushing towards him, he pulled himself back in his seat and saw, beside his own hands on the wheel, another pair of hands. Disembodied hands. Hairy hands, driving his car to destruction, and him with it. if you find yourself at a loose end in the near future, I'll be on hand with another story from the mausoleum. So, good night and drive safely, won't you?